And we're back.
Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. This is Salt of the Streets, episode 150, part 3. My name is Donovan.
I'm Colin. I also forgot my charger for my phone. I meant to
you
grab
can have
that.
this one back now.
Ooh, is it
I'm done
plugged
with
in?
it, yeah,
I like it.
Just been hanging out.
I got to keep that extra view going. Sorry.
No, you're fine. This part of our show and every other segment and every other goddamn episode is brought to you, of course, by Zeke,
The man, the myth, the legend.
the executive producer and our top Patreon contributor. If you want to be just like Zeke, you can go over to our Patreon, patreon.com/saltofthestreets. You can join there and you can pledge as much as you want. We have various different rewards and we'll change them up. Let us know what you want to see and we can do whatever you want. So
That's right.
we also have our own personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. Colin is at Bergbird Offie on both of those things. You can find all of this at saltofthestreets.com. Okay, so Deborah.
Driving me nuts.
Deborah.
Welcome,
it is
Deborah.
goddamn good to see you, Deborah.
It's been so long.
Little League is over. Will Wallace.
Nice.
Hello.
Woo! Yeah,
Everyone
Mr.
is
fucking Mom
here.
out there. Mr. I am so excited. The day after my birthday, William Wallace Batchy Pad or Batchy Party.
Ooh,
I'm
there
so
you
excited.
go.
I'm so excited, Will. It's
There
going to
you
be
go.
so awesome. And I'm pretty sure we never resolved the terms of our bet, so we're going to have to discuss that at our bachelor party, good sir. I
You and
promised
him?
him he'd be engaged or married by, it was like last Christmas or whatever, and then he was. So
Got him.
we got to talk, buddy.
Gotcha, Will Wallace.
All right. Anyways, sorry, I fucked up your thing here.
No,
Too long.
no, you're
too
fine.
long.
You're fine. Been far too long, Deborah. So, part 3. We're going to be talking about some Ukraine, some military type stuff.
Some international stories.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So, I know this, but you guys don't know because it was silent. I talked about the Ukraine counteroffensive last week. And some things going into it, some concerns that I had. I was going to, so stupid, I was going to say, go back, listen to the episode, but you can't. So,
Because for those of you who might just be catching this particular part and not the earlier part of the show, when I was out fucking around fishing, getting drunk a couple weekends ago, you held it down solo from your individual studio at the house, and that last segment or two was totally silent
yes.
for some, we'll call it technical difficulties. We'll say that much.
Yeah. So I talked about like some hesitancies I have with the idea of a Ukrainian counteroffensive.
I would love to hear that.
Whether or not, so in short, right? I'll try and kind of summarize it. The goal of our continued aid to Ukraine has been for Ukraine to be able to reclaim its own country, right? So part of that requires a counteroffensive if that's what the end goal is, right? My concern is that my main concern with the Ukrainian conflict is the loss of life, the continued loss of life, right? So my main goal is to stop people to be done dying.
So you're basically DJ Trump on this.
That's what I would like to be done. Yeah, is for people to be done dying. So I'm concerned with the idea of a counteroffensive because it doesn't stop the killing, which is what I think our goal should be as a world, right? Since we're on this as globalists, I think our concern should be as a world to stop people from dying.
Seems good.
So instead of a counteroffensive, I believe that our goal should be seeking a diplomatic resolve or some type of treaty at this particular point.
Based.
I have larger concern with the continued counteroffensive that they're already talking about strikes into Russian territory. This has already happened. So I don't have faith that the Ukrainian counteroffensive will stop at where the borders were pre-Russian invasion into Ukraine.
Yeah. If they can get to that point.
Yes. So I don't necessarily feel like this is a good idea. I understand the conceptual argument behind it. I don't think this is the right way that we should be going, but it's the reality of what we're doing. So
Yeah, and I have thoughts on that.
let's hear it.
Because I think, honestly, the only particular involvement we as the United States should have in this point is just essentially like on a diplomatic level, trying to continually push for peace talks and negotiations and stuff like that. We shouldn't necessarily providing military support or
Like the
anything like that, right?
Africans.
I'm not super into that. Like the Africans.
There is an African delegation in Russia
Oh,
on its way to try and,
Oh,
and
just
promote a peace
there you
treaty.
I was saying it's more like China because they're the ones out there doing any heavy lifting at this point.
Yeah.
But I would say if you were to remove our involvement as it were now, right? Because I think all of that is wrong, more or less. I would have zero issue with Ukraine trying to, if they had the ability to get into Russian territory and fuck them over too. I don't have any problems with that because Russia invaded Ukraine. I got no issue with it. If somebody invades you, you're in fucking war. Who gives a shit? If you can march to Moscow, march to fucking Moscow. I would advise against it because it's literally never been able to be done ever in human history.
Yeah.
But if that's what you wanted to do it. I don't care. But that means removing it would only work that way if we had never really truly gotten involved in the level we have now. Because now, again, we've heard it from Vladimir Putin and the Russian side at that point that they're at war with NATO, they're at war with the United States, they're at war with the whole goddamn Western world at this point. So it doesn't become that simple. But on its own, I would have no issue with Ukraine going and fucking up Russian border towns because they've done the same to them. You're at war, bro. You invaded us. I don't give a shit if I go in and wreck your country. You've wrecked our country. But as a American who unwillingly has been brought into this war by our fucking piece of shit government, I don't want that to happen because that just escalates things and it makes it worse. And, you're not going to win that one, Ukraine. I'm sorry, but greater empires than you have tried and failed every time. So
Yeah.
probably not a good idea. If it's about retaliation and just killing people because they killed you, I can understand it. But again, if we're in the situation we're actually in, I don't advise that, and I would not support that at this point in time because you're just our pawns on the board, bro. But this is our war, so I don't want that. The minute American fucking bombs start falling in Russia from Ukraine, that's a problem. And I'm not looking to deal with that problem, so I'd prefer if it didn't happen. But I can understand why Ukrainians would want to do that. And again, clean slate, I'd support it at that point. Somebody invades my country, I'm going to take your fucking country. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't care. But that's not really the reality we live in, so I'm not into the concept. But like I said, just theoretically,
Yeah.
I would have no
get it.
issues with it. But yeah, if this is the world we're living in where the counteroffensive for Ukraine is taking parts of Russia, for one, I laugh because that's not going to happen. And two, I don't want that kind of added fucking pressure on the Russian army at that point. I don't want them to feel that much more pressurized. Like, I get it, but also there's bigger shit at stake here, bro. You don't need to be doing this.
Right. The escalations that took place prior to Russian invasion of Ukraine, I think, were enough. We definitely don't need consistent battles along whatever the Ukrainian-Russian border is, wherever that line is drawn.
If Ukraine takes over like some border towns in Russian territory, they're not stopping until they get those back either.
Right.
Which again, I understand, but also like it's just prolonging the conflict even more. At this point, you're not going to convince me that Ukraine's going to get Crimea back, bud. Sorry, that's not going to happen.
Right.
That's a lost cause at this point. And if your end goal for this new offensive is to reclaim all your Ukrainian territory, well, I got a newsflash for you, bud. It's not going to fucking happen.
There's potential for some weird no man's land to be established where a group of people feel disassociated from the Ukrainians and the Russians because they have family members who've been killed by both of them over the last decade.
Because their entire generational family farm or whatever has been blasted to shit by both sides.
And now they want independence. Like, we don't want to be part of Ukraine or Russia. We want a different fucking country right in the middle of these two assholes.
That'll be the fucking Donbass right there.
Yep.
They don't want, at this point, they've been killed by both sides. So fuck both of you guys. Yeah. We're going to be an independent thing. Well, good luck. Good luck to that, too. I haven't seen any good news from this quote-unquote spring offensive.
No.
I do have Where is it?
No.
I do have an article here from the Wall Street Journal about
Brian
how
says it will never. Sorry, Brian says it will never make it back to the border. As Deborah says, or is that illusion for public consumption while that money floats back to the big guy for his upcoming campaign?
Hey-o, the big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a. If we weren't fully on breaking points today, I had a few Joe Biden things, but I might be able to work something into the grab bag. for
Grab
that.
bag always has something.
It's always got something. By Africans, I thought you meant about Wagner. But let me pull this article up real quick because I think it also illustrates a different issue that's going on right now. So from the Wall Street Journal, Ukraine runs into Russian air superiority. And this comes on the end of us essentially allowing or approving NATO to be giving F-16s to Ukraine to help with
training the Ukrainians on the use of F-16s.
And up until this point, I thought the narrative, or at least the propaganda at this point, was to say like our anti-air defense systems that we've been sending them were so fucking solid. It has kept Russian air support from becoming superior. Like they've not been able to gain air superiority because of all the weapon systems we've been sending over there. I thought that was the deal, but now we have an article from Wall Street Journal saying like the Russians have air superiority. I think it's a really interesting thing. So Ukraine said its forces were advancing on several axes in the counteroffensives, but were struggling to counter Russian air and artillery superiority, hobbling its assault in the east and the south. Now into its second week, Ukraine's ambitious attempt to take back Russian-occupied land is proving to be a hard slog against dense minefields and well-prepared defenses. After Ukraine's first probing attack yielding mixed results, that's so terrible to say. Their first probe had mixed results. That means a bunch of people fucking died and no lines really moved.
Yeah.
Its forces have mostly paused their advance in recent days as commanders take stock of the past 2 weeks and analyze ways to punch through the Russian lines without taking huge losses, indicating that at this point they haven't punched through Russian lines and have taken huge losses. Russia has taken advantage of its superior air power and Kiev's limited air defense to strike Ukrainian armor columns and stop several attacks, destroying some of the sophisticated Western weaponry Ukraine is fielding. So in other words, this is wasted cash.
And that's the stuff I was talking about earlier, the Bradleys and the Abrams tanks being destroyed in the first pushes into these contested areas.
Yeah, and I think just speaks to the point that I'm making that, like, this whole lie of having air superiority somehow because of our air defense systems over in Ukraine has just been a lie to this point, because if they're knocking out our entire columns of fucking U.S. and NATO-made gear, obviously we don't have air superiority. It's a good thing we're sending a few fucking F-16s over there. That'll be a super game changer.
Yeah.
Because the modern day fucking MiG fighter is just a dilapidated piece of shit, right? I'm sorry, but I highly fucking doubt it. I'm pretty sure it's a generally dope ass fucking plane. But the UK's defense minister said in its daily intelligence briefing on Saturday that Russia had bolstered its force of attack helicopters and occupied that place, Berdyansk, whatever it is, some 60 miles behind the front line of Ukraine's south, with more than 20 additional helicopters deployed there. So we're talking double digits alone right now, and mostly gunships. The move further strengthens Russia's...
Helicopters are a game changer.
They are indeed, because planes,
Brian
jets
be
especially.
Brian be knowing about helicopters.
Brian be knowing about helicopters. Also, it's a real close race with the episode title. That sounds really nice. Brian be knowing about helicopters. The move further strengthened Russia's air power potentially in the region. Helicopters have successfully fired long-range missiles against Ukrainian ground targets that have had little protection from air defense system, the British defense ministry said. Quote, in the constant contest between aviation measures and countermeasures, it is likely that Russia has gained a temporary advantage in Ukraine. It said in a post on Twitter. So really, that's really the only point of this article, is just to illustrate that propaganda line about our anti-air weapons being so based that like Russia's air superiority has not been a thing. They send up jet fighters over there, and we knock them out with Javelin missiles, or I think that's the air missile. Or we have like essentially an Iron Dome type situation going on in the cities, and that's stopping the Patriot defense system, and that's stopping air attack from that place. Well, as it turns out, where it actually matters, they don't have air superiority. They don't have shit. They're getting our equipment is getting nuked with Ukrainian soldiers inside from Russian air defense. Surprise, surprise. It turns out Russia's military is not this dilapidated piece of shit like we've been sold for the last fucking year.
Just going to say all of this line about, well, I guess they weren't as strong as we thought they were. That's because they knew bullshit. This was coming.
Yes.
Of course they know there's going to be a counteroffensive. If NATO is going to keep sending them money, eventually they're going to push back.
Yes.
And like you said, they're not going to allow them to go into Russia, let alone to Moscow or any of that type of shit. So,
no.
Of course, as soon as they start to push, they're going to say, no, this is ours now. That's what we said.
Yeah.
Is that this part is ours now.
Yes. the military equipment you're going to run into deep into enemy lines on the front line of whatever battlefield is going to be very different than what you can field as it comes close to your border. That's when you got all the strength in the world right there. You're not bleeding yourself out dry far out into the front lines. The vast majority of the Russian military is not involved in Ukraine.
I have to assume, and this is just good timing, right? From reading this book, the DA book. Part of the issue that the Germans ran into at the Atlantic Wall was that a ton of the people there were people who didn't want to be there. They were conscripts and people who had been picked up and in these campaigns as countries had been taken. So there's a bunch of Poles and French people who they don't want to do this. They don't have any need to be there. They've been conscripted. They want to be there.
They just bent the knee just to not get killed.
Same thing for the last 6 months, 9 months, a year. We've been hearing about how most of the Russian army is conscripts. They're doing all this shit. I have to assume that the Russians learned at least a little bit from history, from military history. And if they're expecting some form of attempted invasion into their form or their part of the country that they're taking, I would have to assume, under those same assumptions, that they've learned something from history. That's why they're putting the conscripts on the front lines, and the people who are waiting to defend their actual territory probably aren't conscripts.
Yeah.
They're probably people with some battle experience who know what the fuck they're doing.
So your regulars with the training, or your special forces.
So they stand a chance of actually setting up defenses that won't be penetrated. Yes. I don't know that for a fact. I'm assuming that because there are no accounts of Vladimir Putin being a dumb person. He's an educated person, especially when it comes to warfare, military. These are things that he knows about. I have to assume he learned a little bit from shit that happened on his back doorstep. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they've been Russia as a nation, when it was an empire and when it was the Soviet Union, knows what it's like to fight multi-front wars at the time. This is only a single front war. This is not something that's like, bending the realms of experience for Vladimir Putin or the generational knowledge passed down through the Russian military ranks.
Right.
It's not. This is it's a different type of warfare. And yeah, if you believe that the bulk of their military prowess is out on the front line, you've never even played a fucking military strategy game.
Yeah.
Because the bulk of your defense is going to be, let's say, you move the front line 10 miles one direction. You move your back line up 5 miles. And then you hold that strong. That's where your fucking supply lines come out of. That's where all the hard logistical points are based. You have a lot of regulars there. They might be rotating back for rest or whatever. Your front line is always going to be static. There's no reason to have the bulk of your force up front. You have your the bulk of your attack force up front.
Right.
But as far as like your overall military power is hanging back, because if there's a counteroffensive and that front line gets destroyed, you don't have anything to fall back on. You want a harder wall behind the front line to stop any potential advance. And that's like 101 basic fucking grand strategy when it comes to warfare. It's not it doesn't take a super smart person to think that that's how you should do things.
Right.
Have multiple layers of backstops for an enemy force to run into. And then you turn around and you counteroffense again. It's 101, bro. It's so fucking stupid to think that like all the Russian forces are on the front line and all the Ukrainian forces are
Right.
on the same line. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
That Russia was so blinded by greed for territory that it threw its entire military
Yeah.
into its initial advance
We need that
into
fucking
Ukraine.
farmland, bro. We need it so fucking hard.
That seems like a silly thing to think.
It certainly does. It certainly does. Did you see the Ukrainian dam explosion
No.
thing? The whole
Yes,
yeah, you saw
yes.
the clips of it
Yes.
running. Well, we've got another Nord Stream pipeline situation going
Right,
on here, right?
right.
This is from the BBC, but the Ukrainian dam, what we know about the Nova Kakova, that's what I'm going with, Nova Kakova incident.
I like
It's a giant fucking dam in what was Ukrainian territory, but is now essentially occupied by the Russians, that got fucking blown up. It was sabotaged, and then there was a massive flood. It knocked out tons of fucking homes. I mean, it was a bad deal, man. Huge fallout. I saw a big old map with like the actual areas, the tributaries that places got flooded out. Tons of farmland got fucking submerged at that point. Tons of houses, the whole 9 yards. And then the big battle, just like with Nord Stream, was like, well, who done it? Was it Ukraine? Was it Russia? And I'll tell you right now, nobody fucking knows. It could have been both. I mean, if it was in Russian held territory at the time, it would not make sense for the Russians to blow it up. Just like it didn't make sense for Russia to blow up their own fucking pipeline. If it was in Ukrainian hands, it wouldn't make sense for the Ukrainians to blow it up either, because their people are just downstream and they're all going to fucking die.
Right.
Mind you, it is also a power source, so it's a strategic asset.
Hydroelectric dam.
Yeah, and so like you're going to be doing logistical damage at that point. And then again, that they go, okay, why would Ukraine sabotage itself again? But then again, why would the possibility of Ukraine being behind the Nord Stream pipeline make sense? Well, that one actually does make sense, because it's not their fucking problem necessarily. It's mostly Germany's problem. But in this case, who knows who blew up the fucking dam? But it was a big strategic move. Somebody done it, and there's definitely going to be fallout. Everybody loses at that point, because even if Russia maintains control of the territory, they don't get to use the strategic resource that is the dam. And if the Ukrainians capture it all back, well, now you got an entire portion of your country that's flooded because you decided to blow up your own goddamn dam for some reason.
Right.
So I don't know, but it was a big deal. Like last week or 2 weeks ago is when it happened. But as far as strategic moves in the overall Ukrainian battlefield, that was something I saw. It's nothing too crazy. It kind of hit real quick. It was the talk of the town on Twitter for like 2 days, and then it just disappeared again, because I don't think it actually truly matters that much. Trying to think if there's anything else about Ukraine that I particularly wanted to bring up. Good, zoom tight.
Thank you. There was a new U.S. aid package.
Yes,
That went
another
to Ukraine.
300-some million, right?
Yeah, this one is 325 million.
Just drop in the bucket.
NATO is talking about a new aid package, as well as, solidifying their unwritten agreement with NATO or with Ukraine for defenses. And so I wanted to ask you,
Fucking stupid.
what is the difference effectively between, let me find my thing to make sure that I have that correctly. What does it say that we're willing to solidify the loose agreement that we have with Ukraine, but are unwilling to do so with the one that we have with Taiwan? When the levels of aggression prior to the current warfare in Ukraine are relatively similar between Russia and Ukraine and China and Taiwan. The type of shit that they're doing, military flyovers, drills, all that type of stuff is the stuff that China is doing outside of Taiwan. So what does it say that we're willing to do this with and I'm not saying that NATO needs to accept Taiwan. That's obviously, there's a different groups, there's a different deal. But
Yeah, but as far as U.S. involvement goes, it's
yes,
essentially
that
the same.
we're willing to get all behind Ukraine, but we're not willing to even, we're going to shame Nancy Pelosi for fucking going to Taiwan
Yeah.
on a trip to Asia.
So, a couple initial thoughts. It probably illustrates the fact that we actually care more about Taiwan falling to the Chinese than we do about Ukraine falling to the Russians. Don't really have much to lose there in Ukraine. If Ukraine is essentially swallowed up into the realm of influence of Russia, not really that big a deal, especially after that new Baltic pipeline got brought in from Norway over to Germany, right? Because the whole goddamn thing in Ukraine it's not about democracy. It's about fucking gas. It's really what it is. And Russia's control the Gazprom fucking monopoly over in Eastern Europe. That's really all it's about. I don't understand any other reason why the U.S. would give two shits about it. They're not a member of NATO. They're not even well, I'll take it back. I understand why, because that's what we did back in the day, and we've had our fucking USA fucking brand in the Ukrainian government since we helped the coup back in 2014, and so this is just ours, and you can't have it, Putin, so fuck off.
Yeah.
But compared to Taiwan, that's a totally different, more kind of realpolitik situation. It has much more deeper consequences if Taiwan falls to China and becomes part of the CCP instead of, the old school Chinese Republic or whatever the fuck it was. There's going to be a lot more economic fallout for the United States. We won't have good ties with a island nation directly off the coast of China, which could be very useful in a proxy war.
So then why would we be willing to put this support behind Ukraine and not behind Taiwan?
I think we have much more realistic military support behind Taiwan because China does a bunch of exercises over Taiwan. They do a bunch of flyovers and all that. And then as soon as they're done with that, then we go do ours. We just did a massive fucking military exercise in the fucking strait over there last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. As soon as China got done with theirs, we went over like, well, we're going to fucking spread our BDE now. We got aircraft carriers. We're running this. We're running that. That is so much more of a realistic hot conflict possibility directly between us and another nation compared to Ukraine. That's why I think it's so much more different. There's nobody that's going to get involved. There's no way logistically you can funnel the amount of weaponry and money into Taiwan that you can into Ukraine.
We already
it's
have
so
those
much
backdoors
easier.
built into
Yeah.
Ukraine.
We've been a massive military base in Germany and all over Europe since World War II ended. We have a massive unit over there, particularly because of NATO and like that whole anti-Soviet wall that was built.
Right.
So we have massive military presence over there. And so if shit hit the fan, there's hundreds of Abrams tanks ready to roll. There's fucking thousands of troops ready to roll, helicopters and fucking F-22s and the, bombers and all that shit. So it's all ready to go. Not the same case in Taiwan. Basically, it's all naval power in Taiwan. So it's a bunch of going out there, doing joint exercises, doing a big show of force, and then going back to our little area between Taiwan and Japan and doing that whole thing. And then China comes in, they do it too. But the realistic military conflict that could occur is far worse when we're looking at Taiwan. I mean, I have a story I was going to hit earlier, but we have remember the CHIPS Act when that was passed?
Yeah.
A bunch of incentives and shit like that for chip companies to like build things up in America and all this. Well, there's a fucking American-based chip processing company that just invested $600 million in factories in fucking China. Like there's in everything as far as our military and our overall, kind of economic advantage and our technology and everything that we kind of have come to rely on for our economic power throughout the world is all based in like high grade microchips that all essentially come from Taiwan. And so if Taiwan falls and the CCP gets control of that, we got massive fucking issues economically,
Right.
and militarily, because all that high tech shit all got Taiwanese fucking chips in them. So the stakes are just way, way different. That's the major difference between those two, and why we can just send a bunch of money and gear over to Ukraine versus if China actually tries to invade Taiwan. That's a shooting war, and that's the kickoff of World War III. If fucking Russia, if Putin decides to throw a couple tactical nukes across the border into Ukraine, into some farmland that's already been destroyed, just to nuke a few thousand soldiers or something like that, that's not going to start World War III yet, right? It just won't. But if there's a single fucking Chinese soldier that makes it to the beach in Taiwan, World War III pops off. Because we just can't afford we can't afford to lose them, essentially. That's the way the establishment would see it anyways. Because we just don't have the backing here. The vast majority of all our chip power in the United States goes to one place and one place only. video games.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's high processing video cards that are done for like, you know, video editing and games, 3-dimensional animation. You know, there's tons of applications for them, but they're all passive.
Because we don't have that many imports from Ukraine. Like when the
No.
grain crisis happened, most of their
That's
grain
Europe
goes to
and-
like Middle Eastern countries and shit like
Yeah,
that.
that's-
India and like
Yeah,
that type of shit.
sub-Saharan Africa,
Right.
all that shit. That's that part of the world, which, you know, is not really going to affect us that much.
Right.
But Taiwan's another story. That's all. Who owns most of our debt? China. Where does 90% of all the cheap ass goods that we buy come from? Fucking China. Where do all the chips come from that make all of our high tech shit actually work? Taiwan.
Right next door to China.
Big fucking problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the difference, I think, comes from.
Okay.
At least that's my opinion. I don't know.
No, I like it.
I'm not super tapped into that world, but it just makes sense.
And then I have the Allies pressuring Biden to accept Ukraine into NATO. So there's continued pressure for that.
Yeah.
To which the obvious question is, you know, this is what got us here, is continue to expand
Yeah.
NATO.
NATO fucking around.
And this kind of comes on the heels of a more dominant. I wish I wrote down what morning show it was, but I think it was on Wednesday. One of the daily shows was saying, you know, there's a common thought now that, NATO membership for Ukraine is the only real way to end this war. You know, is for Russia to know that Ukraine is either in NATO or they're going to be in NATO.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's true. I don't see how that ends the war. Like I just don't buy that narrative. But that seems to be what's being spun now.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
let's.
how we end the war. Is make sure that Putin knows that Ukraine is going to be.
You
in
can't
NATO.
have it.
Yeah.
We did the coup, bro. It belongs to us.
Yeah.
Well,
We already cooed it, bro.
we already cooed it.
Yeah.
Fucking idea man over there. Another fucking episode title. You're just gonna have to pick out of a hat today. So just stating for the fact, like for the record, right? NATO was established to prevent the spread of the Soviet Union, correct? Does the
Yes.
Soviet Union exist anymore? No.
No.
So this has become an entirely different form of military alliance.
Actually, it does in our hearts, comrade.
It does. It does. That's right.
It does in our hearts.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
That's all. Go ahead.
all them fucking Antifa pukes. I mean, they would
That's
love
right.
they love for the years of the Soviet Union.
Union is alive, comrade.
How many fingers am I holding up? Is there 5 or 4, bitch? But it's NATO has essentially taken on a different role. NATO is now, it's a weird military alliance, yes, but also NATO represents the Western world, right?
Yes.
Everybody's spheres of influence. That's NATO, right? That's why Turkey's kind of loosely involved, and and Erdogan is a part of NATO from Turkey because we need them in our realm of influence, right? They're the thorn in the side of NATO. Nobody likes that, like Turkey's a part of NATO because they always have problems when we want to expand NATO.
Right.
Erdogan goes, no, bitches, we're not going to do that. I have issues. No, Finland, you can't become a part of NATO. No, Sweden, which we'll talk about in a second, you can't become a part of NATO. It's always Turkey. But we need them in our realm of influence because otherwise they're 100% going over to Russia's side.
Right.
In that world. So the Cold War's still on. It's Eastern versus Western. If you get Ukraine to join fucking NATO, there will still constantly be conflict. It's not necessarily going to stop Putin from trying to fuck with it. It'll just be more nerve gas attacks on high-ranking officials in Ukraine. People are still going to be
Cyber attacks and shit.
Yeah,
Weird stuff like that.
it won't be open hot conflict. It'll be both sides supporting various civil wars, in which case there's just more and more murder on both sides, left and right. Everybody just keeps dying. So it won't necessarily fix anything. It might prevent larger conflict just based off of Article 5 of NATO and the joint support for if somebody gets invaded or not. But once people are a part of NATO, there is the world is like, we're not going to invade because we're not doing that. Belarus isn't going to march into Ukraine from the north if Russia's not already in a war with Ukraine.
Right.
If they're a part of NATO, lines will just hang out where they're going to hang out. And their realm of influence will probably shift back to the Middle East like it used to be. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the world has to gain from Ukraine joining NATO. It wouldn't necessarily stop the conflict. It would just maybe shift it slightly to a different form or a different location, but it wouldn't really change. And at this point, I mean, the fucking NATO president or whoever the hell represents it, I think we showed it in a previous episode, their tilt is that, like, Ukraine will be a part of NATO eventually anyways, at some point. Like, that's the path. They're on it. So regardless of how this whole thing ends, whatever's going to be left of Ukraine, I could see a world where there'll be an Eastern Ukraine and a Western Ukraine.
Yeah.
I could see some Cold War shit like that happening. You know, the Eastern Donbass and Crimea will belong to fucking Russia, more or less. It'll just be called Eastern Ukraine. And then we'll have Western Ukraine.
They don't even get their own name?
No. It'll just be East and West, because otherwise, how do we make sense of this to the public? Well, Eastern Ukraine needs to be liberated because they're controlled by those fucking dictatorial fascists over in Russia. That's not a good thing. And then all the support will be put behind Western Ukraine so that, you know, we have Western powers, we have Western allies. You know, Western Ukraine's where it's at. Kyiv is like the hot popping capital right now. All the young upstarts and the entrepreneurs are starting businesses there. It's a whole 9 yards. Throw your money into Ukraine. Go invest. Go be fucking profitable and an entertainer.
I got it. That's where Trump finally gets his wall, is in Ukraine.
Yay! It's the return of the wall.
That's where he gets it.
Except it will be the Ukrainian wall this time.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But he's going to say, Mr. Zelensky, build that wall. And then a bunch of people are going to say, oh, yeah. Cheers. And
it's all fucking so
happiness.
stupid, man.
They're going to be like, we need to keep our Nazi ways over here. Keep
Bro.
that progressive shit over there with Russia.
Okay, so I have a tweet. I have a tweet to show you. It's pretty fantastic. I think this pretty
We
much
can all agree that there are Nazis in Ukraine, right? We're not
Well-
saying that Ukrainians are Nazis.
but there's a
we
lot
can-
of Nazis in Ukraine.
We can all agree that Nazism is alive and well in Ukraine, right?
I think the New York Times would also agree with you at this point.
Oh, Jesus.
This was fantastic. This is from at Defiant L's. If you
Less than a year, huh?
less than a year, July 2nd, 2022. New York Times headline: How the Russian media spread false claims about Ukrainian Nazis. June 5th, 2023. Nazi symbols on Ukraine's front line highlight thorny issues of history.
You fools.
That's fucking fact right there, okay?
You fools.
All the people in Ukraine that are doing all the fighting and dying on the front lines are all hardcore fucking Nazis, bud.
Baby Nazis.
I hate to say it, like, they're not a big fan.
Y'all are wild.
They're not fighting for Zelensky. Half of them fucking hate him. Why? Because he's Jewish. That's why. And they know he's a fucking puppet installed by the United States government. They're not a huge fan of that. But what they do care about is nationalism.
Nationalism.
They are fighting for their home and their families and their friends and their ancestors. It's kind of a Nazi thing, which, you know. But that's the reason they're out there. They're not fighting for democracy and fucking, you know, their bullshit president that was installed by a foreign power. They don't give two shits about that.
Right.
No, they're much more localized, and yeah, you hate to say it, but a lot of them are direct ancestors of literal, actual Nazis. Sorry, bud. That's the reality of the situation. Even the New York Times can actually have a come to Jesus moment a year later and be like, well, it's a thorny problem.
Yeah.
It's a thorny problem that there's a bunch of Nazis out there holding it down, bro. Sorry.
They do be doing that.
It's where the people live, bro.
Yeah. They do be being Nazis.
They do be being Nazis.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's see
Jesus.
what else I have on my little things.
Oh, here's the video of the fucking dam breaking. Here we go. This
Okay.
is what happened after. Yeah, this is the video of just what it looked like.
And then we're going to extend this out into some different countries, more general military
Yeah.
stuff, as long as you're cool with that.
I'm super cool.
I
I
have
mean,
some
just
things
see
I'll
it. So
send
it
you.
blew up right there, and then just massive amounts of water as this drone comes in. You're talking hundreds of thousands of homes get flooded out, properties, people having to evacuate areas. I haven't heard anything about the death toll numbers on this, which might indicate a previous like evacuation type order.
Because
type
there's
thing,
houses and shit around here.
yeah, and primarily the issue is downstream. Because all those rivers that are running now are going to be about 25, 35 feet fucking
Right.
higher. And there's a lot of houses involved at that place. But part of the reason about that, I forgot to mention, we were talking about the dam situation. That dam situation is that this particular reservoir that was held back by the dam and stuff like that is the primary water source for where? Crimea, which is held by the
Russia.
Russians. Hence the conversation about whether this may or may not have been a Ukrainian kind of self-own, just to own the libs type of thing. You know what I mean? I'm going to take a self-own just to own the libs. We're going to blow up our own fucking dam because why not? We can rebuild it in a couple of years. We're all corrupt. It doesn't really matter that much. So fuck it. We'll deprive Crimea of their water source.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that video. It was pretty wild. It's a lot of fucking water, dude. A lot of water coming down. All right, what is this that you're showing me? Why Saudi Arabia defied the U.S. over OPEC oil supply cut?
Okay, so
You're telling me the Saudis defied the United States?
so this article, I'm sending you a third one,
Oh,
and I'm
yes.
sending them all in order, and this will
Okay, good.
perfectly create the narrative
We'll
in
get
which I
queued
would
up.
like to persuade you all to believe.
Are you trying to establish a narrative,
I
Donovan?
am being honest about the propaganda I'm spinning you, telling you I'm trying to deceive you. No, okay. So this article is from October 7th of 2022, right? So this is a little bit of a throwback so that we can remember. No, the first one was correct.
Yeah, no, I'm
Why
just- I'm
Saudi
queuing
Arabia-
up.
Yeah,
I'm
no, you're
queuing
good.
up.
You're good. You're good. So this article is from October 7th, 2022. If you go back to whatever the most recent show was that we did at that time, we covered this when it happened because
Yes.
because it was a large topic, right? Because Joe Biden was like, I'm going to go over and I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to make sure that OPEC knows that they can't be cutting oil production because we need it.
This was the official fist bump situation, and yes.
And then he leaves, and like 2 weeks later, they're like, yo, we're cutting oil production.
MBS is like, go fuck
Yeah,
yourself,
like,
bud.
y'all have us fucked up. We're cutting oil production for
Yeah.
sure.
I hear
right?
what you said about my mama.
Right. So this is just to remind you that this happened, right? That we discussed this. We'll read like a little bit of it. This is a CNN analysis, of
CNN business, bro.
right of why Saudi Arabia defied the U.S. over OPEC
Because they
oil
mean
cuts.
business.
Saudi Arabia's energy ministry once famously said that the kingdom derives pleasure from keeping everyone on their toes. That is likely how White House officials and Democratic politicians were left feeling when the kingdom led OPEC to announce a mammoth oil production cut this week, causing fears of even higher inflation just 5 weeks ahead of the midterm elections.
Pause button.
Yes.
Editorial note. What does mammoth oil production cut mean? How about you give me a percentage, CNN business?
It's
You're
mammoth,
a fucking
dude.
business, right?
It's
give me a
mammoth, bro.
percentage. Give me a number to work off of. This just tells me it's bad. It's big and it's bad. It's an extinct animal worth of fucking oil
That's
production
all
cutting.
you need to know.
Mammoth is a big animal.
What they're trying to say, let me interpret this article
Please.
for you. What they're
I
trying
have a hard
to
time
say,
understanding CNN's propaganda.
we all know that oil comes from the bones of dinosaurs, right? So what they're saying is
Fossil fuels.
that's true, right? That like
Yes, in some capacity,
breaks
yes.
down into the oil, and that's like,
Yes.
well, okay. So
It doesn't
that's
all-
right. Before I make this joke,
It
let me make
doesn't
sure that-
all come from that.
but if
There's-
some of it
yes,
comes from that, okay.
yes.
So what they're trying to say is, if you turn the bones of a mammoth into oil, that's how much they're not going to make every day.
That's a stretch, bud.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're saying.
You're shilling for CNN
You're
business right
just-
now, and I'm highly upset about that.
Listen, you're just not insider enough in the oil market to know how much a mammoth of oil is, okay? It's more than
a
a
unit of
barrel.
measure.
it's more than a barrel. It's certainly more than a barrel.
It's like how a lot of I think it's in the UK they weigh things how many stone something is.
yeah, yeah.
Like fuck you, dude. Fuck you. I don't care if you put it in kilograms. We can go metric.
Right.
We could do that, but you
stone
can't
is-
call a fucking mammoth of oil. That's not a unit
Yeah.
of measure, bitch.
A stone is like several pounds too, like
Yeah, I think
12 or
it's
something.
like 12 or
Yeah,
15.
It's was super weird.
Somebody was just talking about a stone on a fucking podcast the other day, right?
Maybe.
It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Either way,
Yeah. They'd be weighing
a
fighters
mammoth
like that.
of oil.
This guy weighs 12 stone. The fuck does that mean?
And then we'll
Yeah.
really change it up. It's not a unit of volume; it's a unit of weight. A
Right.
mammoth is
Yeah.
4,000 pounds of oil, or 320 kilograms of oil.
That's so stupid.
Yes, it is.
Oh shit.
Fuck you, CNN. Carry on. So the mammoth oil production cut.
Yes.
Yay. Okay. We remember that. We talked about that at
On
the time.
Wednesday, OPEC Plus, the oil cartel led by Saudi Arabia and Russia, agreed to slash production by 2 million barrels per day, twice as much as analysts had predicted. In the biggest cut since the COVID-19 pandemic, an intense pressure campaign by the U.S. to dissuade its fist bumps. That was the intense
was
pressure campaign, was to dissuade its raise. I'm not gonna shake your hand, but I'll fucking bump you. Dissuaded its Arab allies from the cut ahead of the decision seemingly fell on deaf ears. Russia is already pumping below its OPEC ceiling, and the bulk of the cuts will be made by the Gulf producers. Okay, so
I
like I
have
said,
so many problems with this.
this is just to remind you that this happened, right? This is just to
Yes.
kind of lay the line for you. So the next article that we have is from Reuters, and it says exclusive: Saudi Arabia doubles second quarter Russian fuel oil imports for power generation. This is from July 15th. Right. So what we're seeing is that Saudi Arabia has cut its own oil production, so it's not exporting as much oil.
And it's
now
importing-
importing twice as much Russian oil. Right. So we'll read a little bit of this and we'll go to the third article and it will.
Before you read,
Yes.
in case it comes up, I'm going to assume that the reason that they're doing this is because it will cost them less to import the oil used for power generation than it would for them to process their own
So-
and use their own.
You are partially correct.
Fuck
and,
yeah.
And the third article will fully create the narrative for everyone.
Nice.
Because these articles are spread out enough. Like this one was from April, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that.
This was from July.
Okay. Oh, the picture's from April. I'm sorry. I
Yeah, the
read
first
wrong
one
piece.
was from October of last
Yes.
year. This is from July of last year.
So this is a thing that if you're not, I'd be keeping my eyes on the Saudis. You know what I'm saying? I keep my eyes on the Saudis. The
Hey, you
same
know,
way that you be watching the Russians. Is
I
the
watched
same
the
way-
Russian Bear. You
Yes.
watched the Saudis
Yes.
oil
It's
princes.
the same way that I be watching the Saudis. So,
Also, you need to be watching that fucking movie about how the Saudis fucking got lit up. It's got Antonio Banderas in it. It's
ooh,
yeah.
what's it called?
I'll pull it up in the grab bag. I'll
Deal.
remind you of it.
Deal. Okay. So we'll read a
It's
little
not
bit
a
of this
bad
one.
movie. It's the first non-bad movie suggestion I will offer to you.
I like
okay?
it. I like Antonio. He don't really make bad shit. You
No,
know?
he's great.
Yeah. Even like, no, he don't really make bad shit. So this is
Even the
from-
B movie is fire.
Yeah. Moscow, London, Dubai, July 15th. Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, more than doubled, which we could be if we
Could
weren't,
be.
if we weren't fucking around.
Certainly could be.
I got some shit to say about that
Me
too.
too. That was I was on that till with the
Yeah.
first article.
Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, more than doubled the amount of Russian fuel it imported in the second quarter to feed power stations to meet summer cooling demand and free up the kingdom's own crude for export. Data showed and traders
There you
said.
go. We're freeing it up so we can use our own shit.
Russia has been selling fuel at discounted prices after international sanctions over its invasion of Ukraine left it with fewer buyers. Moscow calls the war in Ukraine a special military operation. The increased sale of fuel oil used in power generation to Saudi Arabia show the challenge that U.S. President Joe Biden faces as his administration seeks to isolate Russia and cut its energy export revenues. While many countries have banned or discouraged its purchases from Russia, China, India, and several African and Middle Eastern nations have increased imports. Biden was on Friday visiting Saudi Arabia and was expected to seek an increase in oil supply to global markets from the kingdom to help lower prices that have aggravated inflation worldwide, instead of just fucking pumping at home. When I was meeting with a financial dude on Friday, or on Thursday,
Did he say drill, baby, drill?
no, he asked me when I was filling out the paperwork, he was like, this one is like, you know, if there's anything that you don't want me to invest or anything that you want to avoid.
You're like, put
And
all my money in Saudi oil,
I
please.
said, bro, if we're going to drill, I want to be involved. He said, that's right.
Oh,
if we're
Jesus.
drilling, I want some of it. I want to be involved. He
Oh
was
my
like, okay,
God.
I will keep that in mind.
We need to come up with like a new patch. It's like an oil Nazi.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to like nationalize my oil trade, and I just want it to be my lifeblood.
Yeah.
I want U.S. oil to be number one, baby. Let's go, drill, baby, drill. The picture of Sarah Palin on it.
This is a little spare capacity for Saudi and others to increase production in the short term. Saudi Arabia has also maintained its cooperation with Russia in the alliance of global producers known as OPEC+. The two are the de facto leaders of respectively OPEC and non-OPEC producers in that group. Data obtained by Reuters through Refinitiv Icon
Ooh.
ship tracking showed Saudi Arabia imported 647,000 tons, 48,000 barrels per day of fuel oil from Russia versus Russia and Estonian ports in April-June this year. That was up from 320,000 tons in the same period a year ago.
And also, this illustrates, too, why it's such a waste of fucking time to ship oil when you can just pipeline that bitch.
Yes.
Hence why we're in Ukraine, by the way. But
For the full year 2021, Saudi Arabia imported 1.05 million tons of Russian fuel oil.
how many mammoths is that?
Dude, so many.
It's like 500,000 plus mammoths worth of oil. Sorry. I didn't mean to do that mid-hit.
The Saudi and Russian oil ministries declined to comment on the increased imports. Energy analytics from firm Vortexa found rising flows of Russian origin fuel oil cargoes through Egypt and Estonian imports boosted imports, Vortex said. So we can move on to the
Vortexa,
third
what a
article now.
badass fucking
Because
name.
the point is that Saudi Arabia is importing more Russian fuel oil. So this one is from oilprice.com. And this is just kind of the best article that I found. I found other ones that are validating this because I have never heard of this
Website.
website before. So just before this, and like, what the fuck is oilprice.com? There were several other articles. This one was the best written and most detailed. So that's
See, this,
why we're...
we got to remember at this point, like, we need to be trying to, like, go to GoDaddy all the time and scoop up fucking based-ass domain names.
yeah.
Because that's a legitimate way to make money, bro.
Yeah.
Is you get, like, DuncanTrussell.com.
Right.
And then just hold it, and then you get a phone call from Duncan one day being like, yo, dude, what do we got to do here? Well, you know.
200 grand and it's yours. It's yours forever.
I will be like, hey, go to the Tacoma Comedy Club and play a show there, and you can have it.
You're way nicer than me. Like, I want to be paid out. I need to be free for a little bit.
I want some fuck you money.
This third article is called Saudi Arabia is profiting from its record-breaking diesel trade.
Fucking surprise, surprise.
Wait, okay. All right. Saudi Arabia is making money from diesel trading after the EU embargo and Russian fuels, as the world's top crude exporter is now importing record volumes of cheap diesel from Russia and exporting record levels of its own diesel to the higher-priced Asian market in the Singapore hub. Trading and ship tracking sources have told Reuters. Okay, so there's this weird racket that's going on that it's... I would have to do more research to find out exactly what we're benefiting, because at this point it's easiest to say without further evidence that we're playing an unwitting role in this circular racket in which we enforce...
Unwitting, huh?
We force nations to purchase Saudi Arabian oil at a higher market because we will charge them money and tariffs or sanctions if they buy Russian oil. We're forcing them to buy Saudi Arabian oil by threatening other countries around the world with sanctions. We're telling them, if you buy Russian shit, we will fuck you for it.
Yes. Now, part of that is...
And at the same time, Saudi Arabia is making money by buying that same Russian oil, telling us to eat shit.
because
and
the
then
minute
selling
we
it
embargo it,
Yes.
it becomes less valued.
Yes.
And then... And this would work generally... This would work out generally for America, and it has worked out for America since the fucking original oil embargo during the Carter days, right? And then once everything got laid out to be like, you can't be trading oil in anything other than the U.S. dollar, we don't really give a fuck what happens, right? The minute we start sanctioning the shit out of Russia, dropping the oil price from Russia, we fucking shot ourselves in the foot, because now they're going to trade in ruble, they're going to trade in
Yes.
whatever fucking currency they want
Yes.
to at a lower price than what they could trade it in the U.S. dollar.
And we'll still buy it from the Saudis in dollars.
A fucking man.
Yes. So that's why I say unwitting, is because I can't at this particular moment figure out what we are gaining from this, because it seems like we're just losing. We're not increasing our own oil production.
We're not.
We are spending more money than we did before on fuel, both as a nation and as individual citizens. So
We are technically raising our production now that it's too late.
yes, but we're still paying what here is
Yeah.
$4.27 at Costco to fill, for a gallon. So
A lot of that, I should have shown that in the locals, but a lot of that is due to state policy at this point. We're the number 2 highest gas state now in the country again,
yes.
next to California, which is not a good place to hang out.
But there was a time not long ago in which our gasoline was $2.50 a gallon. This is an achievable goal for us.
The sad thing is I remember that because it was like a year or two ago.
Yeah, it was just during COVID. Like when I had
you
COVID.
just drive and it just goes up.
Yes.
And it just goes up and it goes
Yes.
up. The fucking homie place down the road, the Gliding Eagle, it's now more expensive to buy gas than it is to buy fucking diesel.
Yeah,
Which is the reason I didn't buy goddamn diesel when my truck got stolen.
Cheaper gasoline is an achievable goal that we can reach. That's
Real quick,
This is
too.
something that we can do. We are choosing to not do this
Yep.
because the government doesn't care about this.
Because we want to support globalists.
yes,
The global market.
so while we are losing money from Saudi Arabia, we're also bleeding ourselves into Ukraine by just continually shipping millions and millions and millions of dollars of equipment over there.
Which then does what to the military industrial complex? Because the vast majority of the money we send to quote unquote Ukraine
Yeah.
ends up where? Lockheed Martin.
Right back at home.
Yep.
Raytheon.
Raytheon, Boeing.
Yes.
All the weapons manufacturers. The military industrial complex get a fucking paycheck because of this. And it's literally no difference. When you look at that relationship to the oil market, there's no difference. This is, if we can foment conflict around the globe that we can profit from just due to oil prices and the oil trade, we be doing that because that's
We be
how,
doing that.
because that's how we essentially control the market. That's
Yeah.
how we maintain our control on it. And now that we fucked it up so goddamn bad with Ukraine and Russia, that they're bringing the BRICS nations into the thing, and China's doing things in yuan. The Saudis aren't trading all in dollars anymore. It's all fucking over. The racket is over.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna start paying the price real goddamn soon. But it's because of this shit right here. We tried to influence the market too much, and the rest of the world decided OPEC Plus, which I got a thing about OPEC Plus, but we'll save that till after you finish laying out your narrative.
This is it. This is the last article
Okay.
I have. This is the narrative. The Saudis are fucking us again.
Yeah.
That's all.
And
they're doing it when no one is really paying attention because, like I said, the
Mm-hmm.
best article is written by a woman who's probably from a Soviet bloc country by the look of her name.
no,
Probably. That's just an assumption. That might be racist. I'm just assuming that.
you fucking racist pig, you.
And
I'm
no
gonna
one fucking cares.
Google translate this shit.
No one fucking cares because go Ukraine.
Yeah.
I saw a Ukrainian sticker on someone's car yesterday that had Ukrainian words on it.
I don't speak Ukrainian.
It didn't even have English letters to say like support Ukraine. There was Ukrainian fucking words on it.
So let's take a guess that this name is Ukrainian,
Okay.
and we'll plug it in here, and we'll just play it.
Кольорова п'ятниця.
It's definitely
No
Ukrainian.
shit.
Let's check Russian just in case. Russian? Might even be Romanian.
Красочная пятница.
It could be, who knows?
Yeah, how do you
Could be
know?
either. Yeah.
That's a fucking name, dude.
That's a language I'm never going to pick up, bud. I'm sorry.
God damn.
Yeah, that's a whole deal.
That one said Bulgarian detected if you go or you
Ooh,
closed
Bulgarian
it, but
detected?
that's what it said, yeah.
Fucking, we'll pull up Google Translate again. We'll go Bulgarian. Fuck it. We have the technology. Bulgarian
detected,
under
yeah.
B.
Bulgarian.
Bullet. There it is. I could spell.
Светана Параскова.
Holy
There it is.
shit.
Hang on.
Светана Параскова.
Svetlana
Светана Параскова.
Pareskova.
So,
Svetlana Pareskova. Oh, fucking Christ.
Praskova.
Pareskova. There you go. That. What you just said.
That's who wrote this article.
Oh,
So my
cool.
point being, it came from fucking oilprice.com, and this woman wrote the best article that I found.
Yes.
And it came out almost a month ago, 18 days ago. So
That's an
19
interesting
days ago.
timeline because we looked at things that were essentially a year, 9 months old
Yes.
to where we're at now, which is just a couple weeks ago.
That's what I be saying. I
That's-
do be
yeah.
saying that.
You do be. Okay, so now I want to rage against OPEC Plus for a
Let's
second.
hear it.
So I would also just at the top, I feel like you remember how there's all this ESPN Plus, Daily Wire Plus, Hulu Plus, whatever the
always
fucking
plus.
thing is. It's always
Yeah.
plus, right?
It
Well,
goes
I'm
for OPEC
fairly
Plus.
sure OPEC was the first one to go OPEC Plus.
That's a good bit.
And I'm pretty sure that's where that comes from.
That's a good bit.
Because it was because OPEC stands for something. It's oil producing.
European countries.
We'll go with that. But I don't know. You should Google it real quick to
Yeah.
make sure I'm not an asshole. But
I
then
like
as
an acronym, dude.
and there was a certain amount of countries that were a part of OPEC, and then as technology increased and we could do things like shale oil and fucking fracking and all this good stuff, the amount of countries that could be a part of OPEC increased. And they just changed it at that point OPEC Plus to include.
Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries.
There it is.
God
Yes,
damn.
yes, yes. And so-
That's lit, bro.
And there was a OG list of petroleum exporting countries that grew at that point, and it wasn't just Russia, Saudi, fucking Canada, and the United States or whatever. And it became something totally different, right? And actually, we weren't even there because we were an exporting country. We were not an exporting country up until, I don't know, maybe a year of the fucking Trump administration. At that point, we started export oil, which at the time you could correlate it to the lowest gas prices we had in the nation at that point. Like states could have had higher this, that, and the other thing, but the average overall oil price, the price per gallon at the pump, was the lowest at that point because we were a net exporter of fucking energy, quote unquote, aka oil and natural gas. Not the case anymore. So we may have had the ability to try to become a part of OPEC Plus and then maybe come in there with our BDE and, you know, continue some top dogs, you know, slapping people in the face. But we're not an exporter anymore, so we can't do that. Now we have to rely, Jimmy Carter style, on adversarial nations that we have to, through globalist means and arms sales and proxy wars, try to influence how they do things for us on the market.
Would be lit if we had another Iranian hostage crisis. And
Not be lit, bro. That would be bad. We just did a fucking Iranian fucking hostage deal. It didn't go so well. It would not be lit. I don't want more you Iranian hostages. It's a bad deal. That's how you get trades like Brittany Griner, man.
Get Ben Affleck.
Brandon
involved.
Griner, whatever her name is. You've seen all the topless pictures of
I think she's just gay, right?
Have you seen? I'll show you some things, bro. It might alter your reality on Brittany Griner.
I kind of think
Might be
she's just
Brandon
gay. I don't
Griner.
know whether or not she's trans.
I don't know. It's a tough call. Once you see these pictures and videos, it's rough
I
to
just
be
can't
like, I don't
personally
know.
attest.
Well, you will be able to soon. It's a weird deal. I get serious problems these days with this. But anyways, back to OPEC Plus. So I made my point about, I think they're the OG Plus company, which is kind of cool, but also it's fucked out that Daily Wire would adopt something that OPEC started. So good for you, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring. I hope you guys enjoy where your plus came from.
That's a really funny political bit if you could find out like how much money those companies get from the Saudi government. That would be like a
super sweet.
solid bit.
Well, and especially because like one of the OG like supporters or founders of one of the silent partners that established Daily Wire, Saudi oil money guy. So it would be fucking sweet.
That would be good.
There'd be a political bit in there somewhere. I should like develop a bit. I couldn't deliver it, but I could, you know, me and you were fans of comedy. We could probably structure some bits.
Yes.
You know, that'd be interesting. I should fuck with that. But
And that's a good one.
yeah, part of this
We should
whole
go
thing.
to some of these local open mics. I don't
Nah,
want to be
bro.
a comedian.
No, I
That
won't do
sounds
that.
like a really stressful life.
I thought about it for a minute. I'm in a very strange point in my life. I was like, you know, if I like committed to writing,
I'll go and watch you.
maybe don't
I'll
do
go
that.
And watch
You're
you.
not invited.
I won't watch anybody
No,
else. I'll watch you.
no. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to attend anything I would do in a comedy setting until I'm recording like my second special.
I'll
Okay.
hit up an open mic with you. I'll hit up an open mic with you. If you're gonna go and do it, I would.
It's a new era in tag team.
Yeah.
It's a new era in comedy. We could do a tag team bit. It'd be
If
fun.
you were gonna do that, I would try and write a couple of minutes to go with you. Like I don't have the dream to do that, but
Yeah.
I would write a couple minutes and go with you. If
I
were
need you
gonna
to
do that.
dissuade me from wanting to do that. That's kind of what I don't want. To
Oh, I
try
think
to
it would
do
be
that.
a good time. I know. I think that would be a good
Watch
time.
me go up and just bomb.
I think that would be a good time.
Fuck all that noise.
I would be really interested to hear the bits that you come up with. That's what I would.
Well,
There
I
was
will. Mm-hmm.
a small time in my life where when I worked at the mattress store, that I was like, I think that I might want to be a stand-up comedian, and they were doing these at the Cloverleaf like once a month. There was some group that was hosting a thing that was like a storytelling hour, and so you could go up and tell
A story.
yeah, but it was like essentially an open mic,
Mm.
so you could kind of do whatever you want, you know. And so I went and I checked it out, and I watched. I didn't like try and sign up or anything like
Yeah.
that. And then I wrote a couple of bits, and they just were all trash. And I was like, I don't think this is really a thing.
Give
that
us a
I-
little bit.
that I care that much about.
Joseph, you're an asshole. No, I feel like I just figured out our our bet failure.
Oh no! Oh no! We have to both go do it over.
No. We don't need to do that because
Oh,
then
that's hilarious.
the listeners couldn't be in. But
Do
I
we have
think
to write a couple minutes to try and do on the show.
I think we should. Mind you, we have a piece coming up in a couple weeks, so we're going to be concentrating on that, right? But I think it would be really interesting to try to structure a bit,
Yeah.
just a joke in a
Okay.
story manner, right? So set up punchline type of deal. Like I think it would be really interesting. It'd be a fun exercise for us to like
Yeah.
both, and then on the next episode. So we got 2 weeks to do this.
Yeah.
Fucking, they write a new minute every week on fucking Kill Tony. We can come up with a bit that's not even a minute long, just one
Okay.
fucking joke
Okay. Deal.
that we have to tell on the podcast.
Deal.
Next episode. Here we go. We're doing it,
We're
man.
writing bits now.
Fuck. Mine's gonna be about OPEC. No, it's not. That's terrible. That's a terrible bit. If I was Steven Crowder, there'd be a bit there. If I was
Yes.
Dave Rubin, there would be a bit there. But I don't. If I was gonna do comedy, it would not be political comedy. Some of it might
That's tough.
social issue
Yeah,
type shit, but
political comedy is tough. So I have a little thing that I wrote here about the Saudi oil money. The Saudis are not our allies and likely
Check.
never have been.
Check.
The talk about sports washing and false cries about women's rights abuses are
Ooh,
a
sports
cover
washing. I like
for the
that.
true human rights abuses and rape of our economy that our supposed leaders are complacent in at best and complicit in
fuck.
at worst.
yeah.
I love the planet. I love the environment. We need to drill our fucking souls out to defeat these pieces of shit around the globe, help restore the U.S. economy, and incentivize oil companies to reinvest in nuclear and legitimate sustainable energy.
Okay, I want you to look at the chat right now. Realize how fucked we are. Deal.
They're into it.
So there it is. We
We'll
both
do it
lost.
during the
so.
grab bag. We'll give everyone the whole show to come in. And
It'd be
we'll
better
do,
be slightly liquored up, anyways.
Yeah,
so.
we'll do our
yeah.
bits during the grab bag. So
Challenge
that's
accepted.
my take on the oil money.
Yeah, I have like a super problem with this whole OPEC thing, particularly because we have proved before, we've proved in the past that we can become a net exporter of natural gas and oil to the
this.
rest of the world. So we could be self-sustaining and not rely on these fucking pukes for this shit. We could not have to deal with fucking oil embargoes or massive sanctions on Russia and whoever deals with Russia because they're selling. If you buy oil from Russia, we've sanctioned them. We're going to sanction you too. But you wouldn't have to deal with that if you had a solid market capability at home. If you did not have to rely on the rest of the globe to support your overall economy, you become somebody that's essentially got fuck you money in that world, right? It's the same equivalent. I'm going to get roasted for this because it definitely doesn't apply, but it's a good kind of general idiom. But like, what's the best offense? A solid as fuck defense.
Yeah.
If you're able to become a badass oil exporter here within the nation, none of this shit fucking matters. And you can help throw your dick around in the world to help control these people because you're a massive player in the market. The minute you're subservient to another country like that or a group of nations, they hold, and oil is gold. Oil is God at this point. We invade
Yes.
countries. We change.
Black
We
gold.
fucking do nation building for black gold. If we can do our own shit here and have all that stuff sitting in the bank and have that power, none of this shit fucking matters anymore. We don't have $5 a gallon fucking gas in Washington State. We'd have $2.50 gas because our state government's still a bunch of commies who are going to make it more expensive. But like the market value would be like $1.50. Bro, you could totally do that if you weren't so fucking in bed and have this globalist dick down your throat so bad you're choking on it. You'd be fine, and we'd be good to hook at this point. We don't even have to deal with these fucks.
We have
They can go out.
technology.
We have the technology, 100%, and the technology would be exponentially better if we didn't have this back and forth every 4 to 8 so years where it would just be like, I'm pro-oil, I'm anti-oil, I'm pro-oil, I'm anti. Let these motherfuckers just run wild. Let the tech sit there and develop. The R&D can sit in 10 years, in place for 10 years. They can come up with some new sweet fucking technologies, and then boom, next thing you know, gas is another $1 lower.
Yeah.
We just made it. We made it like printing fucking gold, man. Let's go. You could totally do this if you weren't so involved in this bullshit WEF, World Economic Forum, fucking globalist agenda. We wouldn't have to worry about that. We could just take care of it at home. Nice save there, big guy. And that's my big thing about this whole OPEC Plus thing. We don't need to rely on them, dude. We do not need to do that. Every time somebody spends a fucking week building an article like this, or spends any time at all, you should show that off to the people, bro, because that is a fucking Big Bird level beer show Friday pour right there, baby.
Bad.
You should have seen my pour yesterday. It was fucking fire. It was perfect.
It's good.
It was so good. So fuck all these people. We don't need to be doing this. We're shooting ourselves in the foot, bro.
No.
It's stupid. I hate it. I hate everybody involved. They're all a bunch of goddamn communist, globalist piece of shit, and I hate them all who just exist to make our lives more goddamn expensive. I hate them. They stank and I hate them.
They stink and I hate them.
They stank and I hate them. I'm pretty sure that's like a South Park line that I've been using for a long time.
So
Oh,
the
fuck.
other...
So how are we doing on time?
Oh, we're all right.
Yeah, we're fine. Because I had a whole nother thing, but I don't necessarily want. We can maybe grab bag that. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm worried about symbolism.
Do you want to talk about the Intel agency buying up all the stuff? I have an article here if you want me to send it to you.
Oh, I have a thing about U.S. Intel having to release COVID stuff. But yeah, 100%. Let's do that. Whatever that is. Send me an article, maybe.
Yes, you're the one that told me about this. This was the intelligence community buying up all
don't
of the
doubt it.
personal data.
Oh, look at that. Hey, everybody.
Whoa.
Look. My mom's camping right now, horse camping, doing horse riding. She just sent me that picture.
What's that horse's name?
That's Dancer.
Dancer.
Dancer. She's a pretty girl.
Horse names are really
Nice
intricate,
spot,
right?
man. So this is out like Spokane area, super eastern Washington. Real nice looking spot. Every picture she sent me has got that nice kind of tree-like forest, but lots of grass involved, no underbrush. You can walk through it. It's a pretty sweet deal. Hence why I like hunting back east. That's the way forests should look, by the way. Very pretty.
Well
TechCrunch.
managed.
Oh, I did tell you about this, and I fucking hate that I didn't even remember that. U.S. intelligence confirms it buys Americans' personal data. When did I talk to you about this? Because I'm trying to remember what podcast I was listening to that brought that up.
I think it was Friday when I got back from going to all the stores.
Oh, yes. Okay. Carry on.
Okay. Newly declassified government report
my phone died.
confirms the first time that the U.S. intelligence and spy agencies purchase vast amounts of commercially available information on Americans, including data from connected vehicles, web browsing data, and smartphones.
Connecting vehicles? Ew, I don't like that.
By the U.S. government's own admission, the data it purchases, quote, clearly provides intelligence value, but also raises significant issues related to privacy and civil liberties. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence declassified and released the January 2022 dated report on Friday, following a request by Senator Ron Wyden to disclose. I hate that dude, but he's pretty base when it comes to like personal information and shit.
Like, right?
Yeah,
Because
kind of.
fuck him. Also, false valor. And-
Right. False valor! False valor! Got him.
It is Wyden, right? Oh no, it was Connecticut guy. Maybe I don't know. Fuck it. Carry on. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm taking off topic.
To disclose how the intelligence community uses commercially available data. The kind of data is generated from the internet-connected devices and made available by data brokers for purchase, such as phone apps and vehicles that collect granular location data and web browsing data that tracks users as they browse the internet.
Also, all of your smart appliances at your house.
We have told you before. I don't know where this came from because I'm sure we're not the first people to say it, but we have said it a million times on the show before. If something is free, it is because you are the product.
Period.
They are buying or selling your information and making money off of it. They're selling your, well, the government is buying and these companies are selling your, that one's on the way out.
No, it's still good, bro. It's peach
Oh.
rings.
They are selling your purchasing history. Of this one goes your location data, the sites that you visit, the things that you look up, the things that you talk about. If you have your voice assistant on, if you have Siri or the Google thing on, if those things are able to be activated by you saying, "Okay, Siri," they're listening to you all the time.
And how about all the metadata collected by these apps that we don't even think about, right? The colloquial thing that I hear about all the time on like Timcast is like Facebook knows when you poop. You're not telling Facebook you're pooping or whatever the fuck,
'cause
but they
they
know when
were-
you're going to sit down at certain times a day and you're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes on your phone doing this, that, and the other thing, and you're not moving while you're doing that. Like there's so much data that various AI models can interpret, that we're giving away data that, for one, there's enough data that we can comprehend that it becomes a problem already. But there's so much more data out there that we're giving away that we don't even know we're giving away. We can't comprehend what it is that we're doing. There's so many veins of this stuff that can get in, that the government itself could use. They don't know when they could use it, but at a certain point, they're going to have enough data to build something up that when they do need something, they'll be able to find anything they want out about you.
Yes.
Anything they want. A question they may not even be able to comprehend right now, they might be able to comprehend in 2 years. They'll be able to figure it out because you'll have that much more time collecting all sorts of data on you, location, speed of moving around. I mean, all this stuff to find out how much you're driving, where you're driving to, just things that we can't even fathom right now because they're things that we do every day, all the time, that we don't even really know we're doing them. But an outside observer like an AI can build a record of movement and habits and things like that we don't even know we're going to give away, that's going to be worth something to somebody in the future. And if the U.S. government is buying it, if the U.S. intelligence communities are buying it, they're banking that it's going to be worth something to them in the future.
Yes.
So we can come up with all the reasons that we can now, but know that there's exponentially more reasons they're going to want it in the future. Based. I don't like giving myself a self-base, but
It is what it is.
Tim was saying that they can predict when you will poop before realizing you have to poop. Yeah. That's because it's just patterns of movement, non-movement, location. There's strings that a computer is going to be able to draw that we can't draw because we don't even think about them half the time. It's like when I go to work every day in the morning, right? I have two possible ways to get to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, initially,
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? I can go left or I can go right.
Right.
I do not think about which way I'm going to go ever. This is counterterrorism training at work here. I just don't think about it. I don't care. The difference is like 2 minutes. It doesn't affect my life.
Right.
I just get up to the stop sign and then today we're going to go this way. Today we're going to go that way. Well, I hate to tell you that, but after maybe 2 years of algorithmic tracking, it's going to tell somebody where I'm going to go that day. The randomization gets removed because probability outweighs it at that point. And then even though every day I think I'm going to go up to that stop sign and take a random left or right, the day the feds want to pick me up, they're going to know which way I'm going. Because the algorithm will detect what the odds are of me going that way. That's the kind of stuff we don't think about, but this stuff is going to do.
And
That's
that's
why
the
they're
type of
buying up
shit-
that info.
And it's also the type of stuff the federal government has AIs to analyze, so that
Yep.
when they buy the generalized data that, like you're talking about, that we can extrapolate this further information from,
Yes.
they don't need to do it themselves. They run it through an AI, and it will tell them the same thing that Google is telling whoever the fuck is reading that. That like,
Yep.
there's a 90 or a 73% chance he's going to turn right today, because most of the time he turns right, but occasionally he turns left.
And you as the human, and even an army of human analysts aren't necessarily going to figure that out because
Right.
you remove the human problem from that. And then it just becomes a game of numbers. It's not good, bro. All this smart tech, you better goddamn believe the U.S. intelligence communities are getting a hold of it. They have gotten a hold of it. And they will do with it what they please whenever the time suits them. And I hate to say it, but you're going to be on the wrong end of that situation.
Yes. They are not here to protect you.
Every institution hates you and wants you to die. Eventually. Sometimes they just need to extract your money. Yeah. Not when you sit down. So you're saying subconsciously you have decided which way you turn tomorrow, yesterday.
No, he's saying that AI can predict which way he's going to go based off of
The overall probabilities of me going one way or
the
the other.
trends that he doesn't recognize, because to him it's randomized. But there is a trend, even
Period.
if it's just because there are 5 days in a work week that you're going to work. you have to be doing one more than the other because there is an odd number of days.
Yep.
So there isn't even a chance that you're doing it an equal amount of the time because you're going in 5 days a week, sometimes 6, most of the time 5, whatever it is, right? But so you have to be doing one more than the other.
Yes, based off of information gathered previously and
Yes.
over a time period.
Yes.
But that's easy because your phone, your smart device, you have let's say you got satellite TV in your car,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's not
Satellite
activated,
radio.
you have
He's a
satellite
satellite
radio,
TV.
satellite TV. You know, hey, satellite radio in your car.
That's my bit. I'm just
you
kidding.
That's cheating. That's a bad bit, by the way. And then the audience is going to vote who had a better bit. And then if you didn't have the winning bit, you got to do another point of suffrage.
We have to upload that clip too, and then put in the thing like vote who had the best bit, and we'll
Thank God we're going to be multiple beers deep by the time we do this.
We'll have to edit it down to the point that we can make it a reel, so that we can put it up on Instagram
and see who
have
plays
a little
better?
vote thing. Yeah,
You know, there's a lot of things that go into like when you post reels, bro. Right? There's times, there's days of the week. You know, I mean, there's no even playing field here. So I don't even know how you're going to attempt to make this a battlefield. I don't even know.
since I run the Instagram more, I'll let you pick what day and time it goes up.
That's cool because
And
I'm
then
just going
I'll
to
put it
defer to you. Like, whatever. Here's my bit. Just post it. I don't give a fuck. Leave it alone. Anyways, that's where we're at. I don't know. I feel like I kind of might have bogarted some of this article.
This was your topic. I just had the article.
Oh, thank you. Good. Because my phone died. I didn't plug it
Yeah, no, I just had the article.
in. Sweet. Well, that's good. I think we can wrap up
Yeah,
part
the
3. We'll
only
get into some
other-
fun stuff when
The
you're
only other stuff I talked about last week was
the
there
silent segments.
there was controversy brewing over a
I like a good controversy.
supposed and then denied AI experiment run by the Air Force. And so
The fuck? I don't
there-
trust the Air Force, bro.
So you can look up an article I'm talking if you want. There was a guy, I don't remember exactly what his rank was, but he was a higher up of the Air Force, and he was saying that it's some panel, and he's saying that they ran an AI test in which they told a computer that was running a drone that was like, you need to
Dragon Lady spy plane?
no, you need
Okay.
to put an Air Force AI test.
Drone test?
Yes. So they told it that it needed to take out like these land to air missile sites.
Okay.
But before it did that, it needed to be, there you go, trying to kill its operator. Yeah, that's the,
Whoa, that's fucking intense.
and
Why the story of an AI drone trying to kill its operator seems so true.
right. So the first articles coming out were just quotes from this panel in which it was this guy saying they had done this test and the AI drone needed to get clearance from a human overseer before it could strike a target. Over time, this AI realized that sometimes it was told not to strike a target that it knew that it needed to strike. And so it realized the only way to reach its mission
was to kill the operator, which was preventing
Yes.
it from reaching its original mission.
Yes. So it does that, and then they change it.
This is what happens when the government tries to run AI.
they change it and they put in the code like that's bad, don't do
do
that, right? So it runs the same test and it reaches the same conclusion, and instead of killing the tower operator because it's told that it can't do that, it takes out the communications for the air control tower
No.
so that it can't communicate with the drone.
That's fucked.
So
I don't like that at all.
after these initial articles come out,
We're going to die.
there's more articles that come out that's like, no, this guy misspoke. He was saying that he's like, after the panel, he said, we didn't run this experiment and we don't need to realize this is a possible conclusion. I was just putting up a hypothetical of a thing. So I don't know what the truth is, but that's where we're at the last time I checked, is that there's confusion on whether or not this really did or did not happen. But at first it
So
certainly,
it definitely happened.
at first it certainly sounded like it happened, and then they're like, no. We would never do anything like that.
course not.
And we don't need to, because we know it would be bad, because that's silly. So I don't know. But that's one of the things I talked about on the last episode, that went unheard.
I'm not into it. All right, give us our socials. Let's get out of here because Daddy's got to pee real quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into some more fun stuff.
Right back. We'll call this an end to part 3 of Salt of the Streets, episode 150. Excuse me. My name is Donovan.
I'm Colin.
You can find us, of course, at our personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. And Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both those things. And you can find all of this at saltofthestreets.com, along with our Instagram at Salt of the Streets and our Patreon, patreon.com/saltofthestreets. Go there, subscribe, help us make more, better content just like this. This segment and all of the other episodes that we've ever done has been executively produced by Zeke. And if you go to Patreon and you subscribe at the top tier, you can also become an executive producer. This segment has also been brought to you by, I don't think I picked one at the top, but we'll say that it's Location Skate Shop. So Location Skate Shop, shout out downtown Bremerton. Go there if you need anything with that. We'll be back in a few minutes for part 4. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Welcome to the Salt of the Streets, coming at you every week with this